In this video, we're going to be looking at evaluating algebraic expressions. So remember, we've talked about the word evaluate. Evaluate just means give me the answer. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be looking at algebraic expressions, and we're going to be solving those. We're going to be evaluating them. So in this first example, it says Simone has X marbles and Cynthia has 3 marbles. How many more marbles does Simone have than Cynthia? So first I need to look and say, okay, well, what will this algebraic expression look like? Well, I know that Simone has X marbles. Cynthia has 3 marbles. So this is Cynthia and this is Simone. How many more marbles does Simone have than Cynthia? Well, to find out how many more she has, I know I'm going to have to take what Cynthia has, what Simone has, and take Cynthia's 3 marbles away from that. And that will tell me how many more Simone has. So the expression I'm looking at is x minus 3. X minus 3. Well, what if I told you that Simone had 5 marbles? So x equals 5. Now can you evaluate this? Can you solve this? Well, yeah. All we need to do is substitute x with 5. So all substitute means is instead of this x, I now know the value. So I'm going to plug that in. So I have 5 minus 3. So how many more does Simone have? Well, she has 2 more marbles than Cynthia. Well, what if I said x was 9? So Cynthia has 9 marbles. Simone has 9 marbles. How many more marbles does Simone have than Cynthia now? Well, I know my expression is x minus 3. Well, instead of x is no longer unknown. I now know that x is 9. So I'm going to substitute 9 for x. And I'm going to subtract 3. Well, Simone has 6 more marbles than Cynthia. Okay, let's look at example B. It says evaluate x plus 12 when x is 5. Well, when I know what the value of the variable is, there's no reason to keep that variable anymore. So I know that x is 5, and I'm going to write everything else. So 5 plus 12. So I know that this is 17. Part C, evaluate 16 minus y when y is 9. Well, I'm not going to keep the y there when I know what y is. So I'm going to substitute it with 9. So I have 16 minus 9, which gives me 7. Here I have evaluate 3z plus 6 when z is 9. Well, I know what z is, so I'm going to substitute that with 4. And this was 3 times z, so I now have 3 times 4 plus 6. In order of operation, say I multiply first. So 3 times 4 is 12 plus 6 gives me 18. And lastly, E, it says evaluate w divided by 4 minus 9 when w is 12. Well, I know what w is, so there's no reason to keep that. W is 20 divided by 4 minus 4. Order of operations says division comes before subtraction. So 20 divided by 4 is 5 minus 4 leaves me with 1. So go ahead and go through and complete these examples. And then once you're done with it, unpause the video and check your answers. So the first one, they had 11 plus x. They knew the value of x was 12, so they rewrote that, 11 plus 12, and that gave them 23. Our second example, it says that x is 22, so I'm going to substitute that, and instead of x, I have 22 minus 15. And so when I do that, I end up with 5, 6, 7. Our next one, we have 2x plus 10, and I know that x is 7. So instead of 2 times x, I have 2 times 7 plus 10. 2 times 7 is 14 plus 10. That gives me 24. And then we have 3x minus 13. I know that x is 6. So instead of 3 times x, I have 3 times 6 minus 13. So that gives me 18 minus 13, which gives me 5. All right, the last 4. Here we have 20 minus 3x, and I know that x has a value of 5. So I have 20 minus 3 times 5. So I do 3 times 5 first, which gives me 15. So I have 20 minus 15, and I have 5. Our next one is 4x divided by 3. So instead of 4 times x, I'm going to have 4 times 9 divided by 3. What's important to know is whenever we are dividing, we always have to make sure that we solve our numerator and our denominator before we divide. So if there were any operations down here in the denominator, I need to make sure I solve those before I can divide. So since I have an operation in the numerator, I need to do that first. So I have 4 times 9. So that gives me 36 over 3. Well, now I can do 36 divided by 3, and I have 12. The next one is 22 minus x over 5. So I have 22 minus my x is worth 20 divided by 5. Division comes first, so I do 20 divided by 5. So that is 4. And I'm going to be taking that 4 from 22. So I have 18. And lastly, we have 22 minus x divided by 5. So I have 22 minus 20 divided by 5. Again, if my denominator or my numerator has an operation in it or multiple operations, I need to make sure I solve those before I divide. So I have 22 minus 20 gives me 2 divided by 5. I could leave my answer like this as a fraction, or I can find the decimal and do 2 divided by 5, and I will get 0.4. Either one is correct.